Hello everyone, and welcome back to DMG. Last video, we took a look at the FirePro 2270 and saw if it could run any games. Today we are going to be doing the same for the R5 240 or HD 8490. It goes by either name, but whichever name you want to use, they can be found on eBay for about $10-ish. So they are a pretty good option for super budget gamers if you want to play some games but want to spend basically no money and you're building a computer from scratch. Now, of course, integrated graphics on any modern CPU is going to be a lot more powerful than this, but if your CPU is a lot older or doesn't have integrated graphics, this can be an okay option. It's also decent for just like, web browsing, watching videos, that kind of thing. It does have DirectX 11 support, so that does mean you can launch pretty much any modern game, but a lot do not run, obviously, because it's not the fastest card out there. But let's take a look at the specs. Alright, just looking at tech power up here, the R5 240 OEM, the datasheet is the same for the HD 8570. It says 2 gigs of DDR3, but the most common version you will find has 1 gigabyte of memory, and that is the one that I have. The ones with 2 gigabytes can cost, $25 and above, and really the only application this card has is someone not wanting to spend $25 on one of these cards. You're instead wanting to spend $10. In the $25 price range, the Quadro K620 is a much better super budget option. Launched in 2013, 11.1 DirectX 11 support. Now the core is actually not bad at all, up to 780 megahertz and memory at 900, which is a lot faster than the GPUs we've been checking out lately. It's not very demanding when it comes to power, and it actually uses PCIe 3.0. Now this is based on the GCN architecture, so of course it's an R5 card, so it doesn't have the newest driver support, but they're reasonably recent, so it's not just like an ancient unsupported card. It does have 384 cores, 24 texture mapping units, and 8 ROPs, so, it's not too bad in that regard, but let's go take a look at some benchmarks. Here we are on GPU Z with the 8570. Here we can see its specs, a gigabyte of GDDR3. This one is a Dell variant, so it came from one of their OEM systems. It's running at PCIe by 8 3.0, which is what it's capable of. And I bet if I start the render test, it's going to run at, so it's running at 3.0. So we're getting the speed benefit of that. Also, Windows shows the GPU activity in Task Manager. So that means it probably also will in the game bar overlay, which is really convenient for us, because that's going to be easier than, tabbing out to GPU Z. Now, I'm going to try and overclock this just a little bit. Okay, I'll just do plus 1%. Maybe like 850. Alright. We'll see if that's stable. Oh wow. So unlike the previous 2 GPUs I've tested, you might be able to hear the tiny fan ramping up. But unlike the previous 2 GPUs I've tested, this is actually running Furmark at a frame rate that is not slideshow. And, of course, this GPU is powerful enough to need a fan, which means it's loud and annoying, but it's also faster. So we're going to be able to accomplish quite a lot more with this one than the previous couple I've tested. But wow, that is the most annoying fan on any GPU I've ever heard. Oh, that's only 50% speed. I don't want to hear what the full fan speed sounds like. You can probably hear it now. It's incredibly annoying. Sounds like a swarm of bees. But, I mean, it's stable. So, of course it's getting extra hot from the overclock. Okay, here we go. Oh, wow. That's good. I'm gonna turn on frame rate counter. That's 105. The camera can't see that. 1 second. Here, top right corner. Okay, so we're getting over 100 FPS. It just dropped to 80 when the particle effects came out, but compared to the previous GPUs I tested, the Fire Pro and the 9300 GE, you know, getting above 20 for once feels fantastic. Again, you can probably hear the annoying tiny fan on this little card, but I am impressed. I'm very impressed so far. Let me remind you that this GPU is even cheaper, actually, than the previous two that I've tested. They can be picked up for, you know, about $9, including tax and shipping, here in the US on eBay. And they are a pretty great deal. If you want a GPU that can play games, but you're on an incredibly tight budget. I actually used one of these for a couple weeks back when I had an RX 570, and I had to RMA it because XFX's cooler design was pretty terrible. It's interesting, unlike most cards, the Lego one runs better than the FPS game, but it's more stuttery than the than the FPS game on the previous 3 cards that I've tested. I don't know if it's just something with low-end cards, or if that's to be expected, or... I don't think... Yeah, look at those, like, random color change. I don't know what's going on there. With, like, the flickers. Let's see. It happened when when I change volume, the whole screen flickers. So is that just like a GPU thing? Is that a Windows thing? Is that a... I don't know what's going on here. Alright, on all of the graphics cards that are more powerful than this one, I can probably remove Unreal Tournament 2004 from the test suite and start adding some slightly more demanding games, because it seems to be running absolutely fine. Which, this graphics card, if I recall correctly, is from 2013, so almost 9 years newer than this game. So, it makes sense that it would be able to run it fine. Especially with particle effect, it's doing so much better than the other few that I've tested. Or sorry, other couple, which I have tested recently. Whoops. The biggest improvement is there's a lot less input lag than the other cards that I've tested. There's almost none, actually. Look at that, it's very smooth. For what it's worth, this card is 3 times the power of the Fire Pro 2270 and 5 times the power of the 9300 GE, approximately. Those being the last 2 cards I tested. If you're interested in seeing GPUs that are really awful, go watch those videos. But yeah, it runs fine. So, whoops, I keep forgetting that Alt F4 doesn't work in this game. But yeah, it runs fine. Even though it's been doing well so far, we're still going to start pretty light when it comes to 3D stuff. I'm not going to go as low as Angry Birds and Crossy Road, because of course it's going to run those fine. But I'm still going to try out Roblox. Because let's face it, if you're buying a GPU this cheap, it's probably something like this that you're playing. I'm gonna do the good old benchmark here. I hope the FPS counter works here. It's already running much better than the other ones. Yeah, that works. It's running it much better than the other cards have. This is the map where the weird stuff happened on the 9300 GE, where it had all of the glitches, and just like random stuff kept appearing. So hopefully the same fate does not meet this card, and it appears the same fate is not meeting this card. Look at that, our GPU usage is at about 40%. Oh, well, it just went up. Wow, it's in the 70s, 80s. Our VRAM is about 90% full. Wow. So it's not maxed out. It's not even maxed out. Neither our GPU nor our VRAM. Oh, that's a volcano. Maybe I don't want to be on the top of the building. But yeah, I mean, for really light games like Roblox, it's working fine. I just saw that ladder render right before my little eyes. That was not there like 15 seconds ago. How can I just like climb this pole? How does that work? The GPU usage doesn't go up significantly, just like watching the volcano stuff, which I would think, you know, its movement, it would make it trip up a little. Oh, okay. But I guess not. That genuinely scared me. I'd like you to know. Oh, I got hit by one. Oh, here's the forest I set on fire. I see. How perfect. Is it gonna let us do FPS? I guess not. I guess we'll just look at GPU usage. Okay, GPU usage is fine. We are getting a good bit of input lag. But I have a feeling I can turn up the settings quite a bit. So I can probably turn all of this stuff back on. And maybe turn it up to like 20 chunks. Maybe put it on 2 anti-aliasing. It's fine with that. The input lag is a little bit more, but it's definitely managing. It is definitely what we would call managing. That's quite nice. There's a bit more in our VRAM. Let's just take it to the highest render distance the CPU can handle, up to 76 chunks. And again, this is more CPU intensive because that's what it does the chunk rendering from. Okay, now we're at 100%, but it's not like visibly laggy. Next, let's try a little beamng.drive, because the FirePro 2270 almost ran this game. Actually almost ran it at a almost not slideshow frame rate. So hopefully this one that's about 3 times as powerful and has twice the VRAM is going to handle it quite a bit better. I'll do one where I can just drive in a pretty straight line and go fast, because that will probably be a bit difficult for the GPU to load in, you know, stuff while I'm driving. Our VRAM is already at 98%, so it's almost already like completely full. And you see our RAM is filling up as well. Probably overflow from the VRAM is what a lot of that is. Alright. It doesn't look great. Our GPU is at 100%, but we're getting 38 FPS. Wow, I'm actually impressed. Let me remind you that this is an like $9 GPU. Like, you can get this for single-digit US dollars, and it's running this game absolutely fine. It's running a game that costs 2.5 times as much as it, absolutely acceptably. Now yes, you do have to turn things down quite a bit, and yes, it does sound like a swarm of bees inside your computer. But if you're building a super budget gaming PC, it's definitely a viable option if you want to spend almost nothing. I bet you could get one of these for free out of like an old PC as well. Because, again, a lot of Dell computers were sold with these. And I think I mentioned this earlier, but if you search for R5 240 or HD 8570, they're the same card, but the ones called R5 240, the ones listed as R5 240s on eBay, often sell for a couple dollars cheaper, just a tip. Now the trees, the mesh on the trees does not look too good. So let's say you wanted to turn it up just a little bit. We'll put it on the low preset, up from the lowest. And it's going to look a bit better, of course. Alright, that does look a little better. Okay, once everything is rendered all the way in, yeah, it looks a little better, but we're getting about 10 fewer FPS. So a mix between lowest and low settings, oh no. If you have this card, would probably be your best bet. I meant to do that. Oh, you know what's really going to make this card struggle? Is turning on AI traffic. I upgraded this system from 12 gigs to 16 gigs, and I am very glad I did. Oh yeah, once we get like AI cars on the road as well, it's having to draw those, so we're getting even fewer frames per second. But when you run into them and drive past them and ultimately run into a wall, your FPS goes up a little bit. But yeah, this is definitely playable on this card, and I am pleasantly surprised. We're going to play some knockoff Fall Guys. Looks like it's not going to give us FPS figures, Xbox Game Bar, for this game, for some reason. But we can still watch GPU usage, VRAM usage, and also system memory usage. And I have it on the lowest setting. And the GPU is actually not at 100%. Wow, look at this. This is running better, like at a higher frame rate on low, than my HD 5870 runs this at medium settings. So yes, this is definitely an acceptable / playable frame rate for a light DirectX 11 based game on this graphics card. Again, this card has 1 GB of video memory, and it's not even full. Watch me like win, because I'm good. And look at that, I'd call that perfectly playable, and I beat my high score. Next, we'll do some CSGO. I expect it to run fine on the absolute minimum settings. Of course, I guess for competitive games you want a higher frame rate, but again, this is a $10 graphics card. Oh, that's already much better. There's not too much input lag. Where did my teammates go? Here they are. Wow, our VRAM is not full, as I was saying, and we're getting a solid 60 FPS. And I've got it capped to 60 VSync. Hey, look at that. I actually killed someone in this here game of Fortnite. Because that's what this is. Hey. I'm so good. I should be a professional player. Yo, look at that! I have the most eliminations! I'm so good, and I survived attacks from 3 different enemies. How are you not dead? Why am I so good? Why am I literally so good? Why am I so good? Why am I so good? Here we are in Crossout. Now usually the first time you load this game on a GPU it's never been loaded on before, it stutters for a bit because it has to load in the shaders and create a cache and all of that. But it's running very acceptably. I'll check our render latency. Whoops. Only about 16 millisecond render latency, which is not bad at all. And it says we're getting 60 FPS on the settings that I had it on. But that doesn't look very good, so we can probably... Oh, our render scale is 100%. So it looks like it defaulted to the low... Or was that above the low preset? No, it defaulted to the fair preset, maybe? Yeah, it defaulted to the fair preset. I'll make some minor changes and then... Wow, yeah, still 60 FPS. Now, I'm going to use Performance Fidelity Effects Super Resolution. I'm going to turn on water reflections because that's kind of a thing that you're going to want because it looks good. It looks like Fidelity Effects Super Resolution is not working, so we're going to turn that back off, actually. Average Radeon R5 240 enjoyer. Not gonna lie, I'm impressed. The game looks decent on this. Let me remind you what I paid for this again, $10 graphics card. We're getting above 60 FPS on this. Let me remind you again, $10 graphics card. You know what I'm gonna do? What about the good preset? Okay, the good preset is still affording us 48 FPS. Wow, that's incredible, actually. Just for laughs, I'm going to turn it to the high preset. You're kidding. We're still getting, apparently, 40 FPS. Now, it's a really laggy, stuttery 40 FPS, but it's still 40 FPS on the high preset. Now, I assume the lag is coming from our VRAM limits, but it runs on the high preset, which is hilarious. That's what I use on my GTX 980. Granted, I'm getting, you know, over 140 FPS. However, this is pretty incredible what this tiny card can do. I have a feeling overclocking it so much helped quite a bit. So if you have one of these cards, I definitely recommend overclocking it. But wow, this card is just amazing me because it is very capable. Alright, how about we try something that it probably won't handle? Alright, here we go. Our first peek at gameplay. Wait a second. Okay, yes, it looks awful, but this is The Witcher 3 running on a $10 graphics card. All of the UI stuff is off screen, so is it set to a higher resolution than it should be? There's so much input lag on the mouse. But again, this is The Witcher 3 on a $10 graphics card. It looks awful, but we're getting like 20 FPS, wow. No way. That's pretty awesome, not gonna lie. I did not expect this to run at all. And it's still, like, it still looks decent. Ooh, okay, the lighting really does, you know, it starts having issues with the lighting. But hey. Not half bad. Alright, here we go with Squid Game, aka Subnautica. It's set to the same settings that I was using on all the other cards, But a big improvement already. The water on the loading screen isn't laggy as heck. For this, I always generate a brand new level because I'll know it'll be the exact same every time. Here we are, and it's running quite well. Look at that, 40 something FPS on a $10 GPU. This GPU was $10 on eBay, and it's running Squid Game at 40 FPS. This is epic. I mean, look at this, we're getting a solid, very playable 30 FPS, just cruising around in the water. And that 1 gig of VRAM, I never thought I would say this, but the entire high amount of 1 gigabyte of VRAM, which is actually a lot higher than the GPUs I've been looking at lately, is helping us a lot. It's not even filled up all the way, it's just like 80-something% full. Our GPU is, of course, maxed out. We can hear its annoying whiny fan, but, you know, that means our overclock is helping it a lot. So again, overclock your card if you've got a low-end one. They take it very well, and you're not really going to damage it. Next, I'm going to try BioShock. Again, quite old game, so I expect it to run absolutely fine. I think I'll just keep the default settings that it's set for us here. We're still getting over 100 FPS here. Well, you know, almost 100. And this game literally will run on just about any graphics card made in the past 20 years. No input lag issues. Even with the fire and water reflections, we're still getting in the 60s range. So I bet I could turn it up even further. We are hitting a VRAM constraint because that's full. Also, look how low our CPU usage is, so you could definitely play this on like a Core 2 Duo and this graphics card if you really wanted to. And it wouldn't be too miserable of an experience. Let's just look back behind us. Yeah, that's not half bad. I'm gonna try turning it up a little bit. I just turned up anti-isotropic a little bit, whatever that does. Here we are. And yeah, we're getting a very good frame rate. Now this is probably one of the most demanding sections of the game, with the fire and the water in that first little bit. And the rest of the game, pretty much looking like this building here, should run absolutely fine. And now it's time for the cleverly named sequel, BioShock 2. Again, this is not a super demanding game, but it is definitely a little more demanding than BioShock 1 in terms of CPU, but most importantly GPU and VRAM especially. It seems to be running quite well. We've got water reflections here. This is a pretty good looking game, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, we've got water reflections going on, we've got lighting effects, and it's running fine. Now, Xbox Game Bar is annoying and does not want to give us an FPS figure for some reason. However, personally I'd say this looks like 60 or above. It's definitely more than playable. And, you know, usually altering an environment in games causes the most lag, but that does not seem to trip up the GPU too much. What was that shadow on the wall? I can't have been the only person that saw that. Oh yeah, we're getting over 100 actually. Ooh, combat, hopefully. Yeah, it looks great, it runs great. Alright, here we go. Borderlands 3. A bit demanding for this GPU, probably. Yeah, set it automatically to the low preset. We're going to keep it on that. And I'm going to run the in-game benchmark. And I'll show a little bit of footage from that. I've heard this game works better on AMD cards, and I think so because AMD has used it in their promo material for like 4 years. We're getting a nice black screen here, but a lot of GPU usage and our FPS figures are changing. So I think if the benchmark is not going to work, I'll just have to play a game and see if that will work. I've already beaten this game, so I think I can just like run around with no issue. Alright, it's not looking too good, but yeah, the low-res textures are not very flattering. And it's almost impossible to play, actually. What am I doing? Okay, there we go. That guy's gone now. Okay, here's my good rifle. We're getting like 20-ish FPS. I'm actually surprised that it's running this well. Like, of course it's not running well, but it's acceptable if you really want to suffer. I mean, it's running. Sorry, I just kicked the camera accidentally. I'm sitting on the floor and I've been here for like an hour, and it's not very comfortable. Like, occasionally you get big stutters like that, probably VRAM related. But again, this is Borderlands 3 on a $10 GPU. Pretty epic. So yeah, this is decent. Like, I wouldn't want to play it like this, but Jesus, where do you come from? Alright, finished the mission. And I actually only... Well, I didn't technically die, but I went into the, like, almost dead just once. So that's actually not bad at all for this card. If someone as bad as me at games can play it and still do well on this card, you can probably do even better. Again, this is $10. I really can't complain when you're paying basically nothing for this graphics card. Now, it's been doing okay so far, so I'll do the Tomb Raider 20th Anniversary Edition and, you know, see how that runs. I'll just turn it down to, like, the minimum settings and see if it does okay. Maybe I don't want it on ultimate quality. Maybe like normal. I'm gonna turn off motion blur because it looks bad. And I'm gonna turn off VSync. So as we're getting above 60, which is down here, which is quite good. I actually was not expecting it to run this well. Our VRAM isn't even full. And yeah, we're getting like 40s FPS range. 40s to 50s. To 60s, actually. So yeah, that is definitely playable. Of course, when you get into things with like fire and water and reflections and particle effects, it's going to run a bit worse. So I do recommend the settings that I used here, which is just the normal preset. Alright, here I am, Fortnite DirectX 11, 100% render scale, but everything else turned down to the low preset, or the lowest possible thing it can go to. Maybe I should turn down the 3D resolution to like 80%. That would probably run a little bit better. Oh good, I actually have a chance this time. Yeah, just really quickly, I'm going to turn it down to 80. There's not too much of a difference in how it looks, turning it down to 80. I'm so good at the game. Okay, so the explosions didn't make it trip up too much. We've got the grass fading in and out of existence there. That's a bit bothersome. Oh, hello. Yo, I got a kill. I'm so good. I'm so good at the game. I'm so good at this game of Minecraft. I'm gonna be real honest, I didn't even see that guy until I was like until I was past him actually. Okay. Lamau. Ah. Mom, help. Oh, this is Fortnite. I can do that. Okay. Yeah, the only thing preventing you from having fun on this card is the game itself, and with Fortnite you won't be having very much fun. But overall, this card is very decent for the price. I was pleasantly surprised. Let me remind you that this is $10 or less frequently on eBay. But that does wrap it up for this video. Next video, I'm going to be taking a look at a kind of similar Fire Pro card. But thank you everyone for watching. Subscribe if you enjoyed, and see you next time.